Okay. There looks like you do have some good discussion going on. Huh? I thought it was Buddhism. I see. Okay.
Human culture and are really ingrained with the rituals of like praying and habit. So I was just reading something that like there are anthropological like findings of at least like 5,000 years before of some form of prayer or another. So just from one group of practices to another, it's just adopting what you're familiar with and what you're used to, and then combining it with new idea or something like that. No, this is that one conversation about when did people start formally praying to the Buddha and things like that. It's like you said, it's just what people are used to doing.
Yeah, actually, even during the Buddha's time, there was a lot of praying. Kind of the system is strongly being established in India already. Yeah. Okay. Now let's come to another subtitle, which is the second truth of the Four Noble Truths: the origin of suffering, attachment, aversion, and delusion. Okay. In other words, the origin of suffering you can understand is because of attachment or because of aversion, and the delusion also. Okay. And but then anyway, to read that you find it is a big topic actually, but then. I think he did it quite well. Put it just few passages and just finish the whole thing. Okay, just anyone next want to read that one? Why do beings suffer?
Yeah. Why do beings suffer? What is the true or reality of the origin of the suffering? At the outset, it is worth drawing attention to a point or contrast with the approach to suffering found in certain traditional Jewish, Christian, and Islamic theologies. As we have already seen and shall see, more clearly in Chapter 5, the Buddhist understanding of the world is not based upon the concept of Creator God, omnipotent or otherwise. Thus, there is no need in Buddhist thought to explain the existence of suffering in the face of God's omnipotence and boundless love. The existence of suffering in the world is not to be related in some way to God's purpose in creating the world, and in particularly mankind as the traditional Christian theodicy of Augustine and Irenaeus. For Buddhist thought, suffering is simply a fact of existence, and in its general approach to the problem, Buddhist thought suggests that it is the beings themselves who must take ultimate responsibility for their suffering. This may come as a rather depressing news, but on the other hand, to anticipate our discussion of the third and fourth truths, precisely because our suffering is something that we must each bear a certain responsibility for. It is also something that we can do something about.
Okay. All right. See, next one.
This way of looking at things has sometimes been perceived by people brought up in intellectual and cultural tradition in part modulated by Christian thought as rather bleak view of affairs, contrasting with the message of the saving Christ proclaimed by Christianity. Yet it is important to appreciate that in its own cultural context that this is most definitely presented and perceived as a message of hope. Furthermore, this outlook of individual responsibility does not entail that individuals are, as it were, forever and absolutely on their own. On the contrary, the message is precisely that help is at the hand of in form of the Buddha's teaching and of those who have followed and are following the path. Moreover, from a Buddhist perspective, the sense that one is forever and absolutely on one's own must rest in part on a self-delusion from which one can be eventually released by the Buddha's teachings. With the Buddha's awakening, the doors to the deathless are once more open to those who have the faith to set out on the path. As John Rose Carter has put it, there is no need of a savior, not because suffering humanity is its own savior, but because of the efficacy of Dharma when made the integral basis of one's life.
All right. And so suffering is created by being, but how? Next one.
The summary definition of the second truth states that
Yeah.
so suffering is created. Oh, it's just continue from
Oh.
there. Dentist. Okay. Sorry.
Okay, you can start again.
So suffering is created by beings, but how? The summary definition of the second truth states the condition for the arising of suffering as the thirst for repeated existence which associated with delight and greed, this and that. This is then specified as the thirst for the objects of sense desire, the thirst for existence, and the thirst for non-existence. I have translated the word
Trishna.
Pali tanha,
Mhm.
as thirst. This is its literal meaning, but in the present context, it is a figurative word for strong desire or craving. In fact, trishna, or thirst, belongs to the corpus of Buddhist technical vocabulary and has very specific meanings and connotations. Thus, craving, while certainly conveying a good deal of the sense of trishna in Buddhist discourse, requires a certain amount of commentary and explication.
All right. Well, the next paragraph is quite long. Next one, anyone? You want to read, yeah? Okay.
The suggestion is that deep in the minds of beings there is a greed or desire that manifests as an unquenchable thirst, which is the principal condition for the arising of suffering. As the summary quotation points out, this thirst or craving takes different forms. Craving for the objects of the senses, for existence and non-existence, for existence and non-existence. It is the cause of suffering because we can never be finally satisfied. This is clear with the objects of the senses. Pleasure based on these is always liable to be taken from us because of their unstable and unreliable nature. On another level, desire for the objects of the senses has always the tendency to increase. Never content with what it has, it is always looking for new objects to satisfy itself. But craving for the objects of the senses is just a particular manifestation of craving. I may crave to be some particular kind of person, or I may crave fame and even immortality. On the other hand, I may bitterly and resentfully turn my back on ambition, craving to be a nobody. I may become depressed and long to not exist, wishing that I had never been born. In this state, I may even take my own life. I may passionately believe that I possess an immortal soul and that I will exist after death, or I may be absolutely certain in my conviction that death will be the final end, and that I shall die and there will be no more of me. From the perspective of Buddhist thought, all of these feelings, desires, and beliefs are the products of the workings of Krishna, the workings of craving for the existence and non-existence. Yet in a world where everything is always changing, in a world of shifting and unstable conditions, craving of whatever kind will never be able to hold on to the things it craves. This is the origin of suffering.
All right. Why don't we just keep on reading first? You want to read over there?
At first, desires may be like the trickle of the stream, but they grow into a river of craving, which carry us away like a current of swiftly flowing river. Craving is understood to crystallize as grasping or attachment. The very things we like evoke desires in us. These turn to cravings. As a result of our craving, we grasp at things and try to take possessions of them. In short, we try to call them our own. Buddhist text provides a stark list of all kinds of attachment: attachment to object of sense desire, attachment to views, attachment to precepts and vows, attachment to the doctrine of the self. This suggests a complex and subtle network of web of attachment that the Buddhist thoughts sees as enmeshing beings.
Okay, let me see. Do we want to stop here just to discuss, or we want to read another paragraph?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Did the Buddha ever mention attachment, well, I guess he must have, attachment of precepts and vows as an obstruction to the seeds of suffering?
Yeah.
And how do we explain that as like why? Why is that an obstruction?
But maybe here they translate attachment, but you can translate it as like grasping. When you're grasping, well, maybe best to put it this way, it's generally believed that only when a person practice like a Buddhist path, right? When they practice the path up to a point that they see the Dharma, they know what is the ceasing of the Dharma. Basically mean when they see the things will also cease to be, okay? Then that person will start to understand, they have to, kind of like then the person will start to eliminate the grasping on the vows and the rules. It's kind of like, when some people were saying that, okay, just say one example, simple. Some people believe that the longer I sit for meditation, I can attain the Buddhahood. Do you think this is right or wrong? But lots of people think that that's right. For example, like when they just do the sitting meditation, they might feel like, okay, now today I'm not doing very good in my meditation because I couldn't sit for so long, right? And these people, because they never really understand what the sitting meditation means. If a person who really understands what means by seeing the Dharma, right? But that it has nothing to do with how long you're going to sit for how long you're going to sit there to do your meditation. It's all about how actually you understand the real practice is about, right? So, but definitely this is as a lot of people like upholding the view, like, no, you got to sit 1 hour more, then you will attain a Nibbana. But then, that's when it's a wrong idea, so, right? But you could say, you could sit 1 hour more, maybe help you to think more, but that's fine, right? This is not your upholding, you're not grasping of the rule that because you want to sit for 1 hour. You get it now? But if you believe that because I believe I sit 1 hour, I will attain Buddhahood, that is definitely is not right? Grasping for the rule.
But it could be conducive when you're on your path too.
No, and that's the reason why this is grasping is not for no general people understand. Because when you, just like I say, like I'm sure now when somebody, if you ask a kid to read a book, definitely you know very well that if the kid he could sit there and start to read a book, usually helpful for that, right? But you cannot claim that, look at that Einstein. Why he become Einstein? Because he sit there and read a book. That is grasping the rule. Thinking that because Einstein sitting on the chair and he read the book, that's why he become Einstein. That was not true, right? And not the rule that because Einstein can sit. Perhaps Einstein actually he is a hyper. I was told actually he's hyper. He can never sit there. He would rather move around. But they can be very smart too, right? So that's why that is actually one of the rules that usually believe the person who started to become the Sotapanna, or before that he would have cut that off already. So they would not insist of the rule. Anyway, I believe that if anyone who really only insists on a rule, that is not definitely, he's not someone who had really, how to say, who are really good at the subject, right? Yeah.
good because they're not absolute, like they don't apply to every situation. Because
Yeah.
like in a way, you can say the conducts, like the Vinaya, is also a set of rules. Like, but are they not good because they're just not absolute?
No, it's different. The word actually here, the Vinaya is the word Vinaya. The word Vinaya originally means going to tame. Vinaya means tame. Okay, the word Vinastati means you go in to tame something, and the Vinaya is being promulgated. The Buddha never saying that when you have say that you observe your Vinaya good, then you become a Buddha. We never have this. We never have this kind of thing, like this kind of statement, right? It's only when you observe the Vinaya, you agreed with the whole Sangha system. You could say you agree with the community. When you agree with the community, then you will not have a dispute. You also become humble. Supposing that everybody who are in agreement with that kind of system, what we call the Vinaya, the rule, and I want to say that because you first have to agree with that certain kind of rule. Let's say that they are not going to steal by year one, but anyone who come here, they like to steal everybody's things, and of course then the whole community will be really in a mess, right? In a big problem, right? So no, but the Vinaya is a different thing. Well, of course, it's still they believe that when people who are abandon this grasping on the rules and vows, so they still follow the Vinaya. Okay, but I want to say that the grasping on the vows and the rules are not particularly saying that the vows of like the because you follow the 5 precepts or 8 precepts. No, it's nothing to do with those. Those are the 5 precepts. Those are believe that is a universal kind of thing. Good. Anyone who are really practice as a good person, they definitely have to follow the 5 precepts. They will not take anything to intoxicate their mind, right? They don't want that. They don't want to kill the people. They don't want to cheat the people and so forth. But here, the vows is basically like you believe a certain system of the vow. Just say even in India, for example, early morning you had to wake up, and when you wake up, you had to worship the God. Then your whole family will be protected, like that. That's a kind of the thing. Of course, this is not a bad thing in some way, because people wake up early. And if you go to India, you still see the people, especially in villages, and then they wake up early. They just hold the water, bring little fruit, and they go to the temple, small one even, nothing there, but just only one statue or what. They just go to wash it and do their prayer and go back, because they just thought this is how passed out by their generation, that is good for the family, so they do that all the time. But I mean, but if you grasping mean, when the people who are enlightened, supposedly that who have attained a certain advanced stage, they would not think that that really, the one that really will be give them a good thing. I don't know how to say. It's like, anyway, a lot of things, like even in our culture, Chinese culture, we believe a lot of things. I'm sure that nowadays it's not necessarily true, but still people follow it, right? So
sort of like superstitions.
Yes, but I think Buddhism do not usually use the word superstition, because sometimes superstition not necessarily a bad thing. Okay, say that sometimes superstition help you to prevent yourself to be doing a bad, will prevent yourself doing a bad thing too. So we don't use a superstition. It's like a certain belief system, a certain belief thing, but it's not necessarily applied to everything. It's not necessarily applied to the truth. Okay, I would say. Just like I say, you cannot say because you sit on the table, you sit here and then you read, then you will get 100 marks. It doesn't. No, that is not true.
Another example to help clarify the question. So, for example, I can't remember if it was the Theravadan or Mahayana story of a monk that vows to reach enlightenment.
Okay.
He meditates, but he would always fall asleep. And so one time, I think he went on the top of a very high mountain, and he was meditating, and he fell asleep. And I think he fell down from the mountain, but when the God saved him, and then he vowed again that I will not fall asleep, and he fell asleep again, and then the God saved him again. And so, but I mean, eventually the story is because of his strong vow, he, you know, eventually reached enlightenment. So I'm just trying to understand, is when we say attachment to precepts and vows, are we talking about vows and precepts in a different context than maybe the context I was just kind of explaining here?
Okay. This is my understanding. Of course, we never, I mean, definitely there's a list of the context, what is meant by grasping to the vow and the rules. And I have to think about what are they. I think that once the Buddha say, for example, you know, people believe that they have to eat in order to have a humble life. So they have to eat much with the, they don't use any tools. They have to use their hands to get the food. Or they have to take, like a certain vows, like they have to live like a cow, they have to live like a dog. And those kind. And of course, those practical vows is believed by other things is the best. Because if you can live like a cow, you are holy, right? So, and, but then the Buddhism definitely think those are the people are grasping. But you are not totally reject, they are doing good thing also in some way. Because they want to really, they can sacrifice their life, just live like a cow, which the Buddha disagree with. But that's a wrong vow, right? They are doing in a certain context. And I want to say it's not only that part, particular kind of the way of the living, but it also has to do with the way of understanding what the vow and the rules is about. The vow and the rules is because usually people stick to the vows and rules as a kind, become a predominant, become a kind, this is my vow, this is my rules, you know what I'm saying? So I'm definitely that's against the Buddhist understanding of, you know, if we talk about anicca or the impermanence, or if we talk about this, what we call the anatta, I mean the no self. So those are, and it doesn't give the real essence of the meaning. So as I say, I keep on saying the same thing. There's, at least my understanding. I think when I was young, I have a problem with blaming myself. I cannot study well because I cannot sit there for too long to read the book, you know. But nobody correct me actually to study. It's not necessarily only thinking about you're sitting there and read the book. You get what I mean? Even though maybe some or two people telling me sometimes, advise me or give me some suggestion, but I never take that seriously because I still, you know, my mind still strongly believe a good student, meaning those who can study well, is because he could sit on a table and read all the time. But then I also have some question. I see some of my friends, they don't study as I do, but they have a better marks than I do. They have a better, they looks like they are much more better than I, you know. So I never have that answer. But my answer is, at least now, is because I have this grasping on believing this strict rule that you have to be, you're a good student means you sit and just have to read. But I forget it's not about that, it's about how I think about what I'm reading. Okay. Right.
And I thought right before Prince Siddhartha attained the enlightenment, that by the time when he realized that he has to abandon the ascetic practice to accept that the offering from the lady, I think that's a kind of the realization of that that holding a certain type of view, like we have to perform this kind of ascetic practice in order to get enlightenment. That itself is a wrong view. So I think it's one of the examples that I thought we can get from the story of the Buddha about this particular issue.
Yes.
He realized that there's not, this doesn't help him. He has to abandon this, and in order to accept that. But from an ascetic practice, for someone who practices that kind of follow those practice, that's the center of their practice.
And even now, actually.
Yeah.
Even now, after 2,000 years, 600 years, still people are practicing the same thing. They don't want to give up that kind of vow. They don't give up that kind of the belief that, you know, you have to be fasting so well that otherwise you have no way to attain enlightenment.
And even
Yeah.
nowadays they believe that you have to be certain kind of people in order to have compassion. You have to be a vegetarian in order to have compassion. That's also a kind of view. That's a wrong view.
Maybe we should qualify this statement by saying attachment to wrong
Precepts and
and vows.
But isn't at the end when before you reach enlightenment, you still have to forget all about all the rest of the things, all the precepts.
No.
I think at that time you have the perfect body of holding all those vows and precepts. The ultimate.
Well, after that, then ultimately, before you reach that stage, you have to release all that kind of attachment.
No, but you have to understand when someone who have attained enlightenment and is a person who has the has the best morality.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but you don't abandon
Call that attachment anymore.
It just naturally.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, but at that point, it's all gone. Yeah.
no. We don't use that word all gone. We are not asking you to. No, it's. I think in one paragraph we did read that also because is it the one that we're coming about? Yeah. So it's even though that when we say we abandon the Dhamma, it doesn't mean that you abandon the Dhamma, then suddenly you change another person. Like, okay, no, it's no.
But that's no longer an issue.
It's no longer usual. Yeah, yeah. Okay, all right, okay.
If every sangha was arahant, there will be no need for vinaya.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, at the very beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's because it.
Start somewhere, right?
Yeah. Where we are now? The ultimate significant thing. Okay.
71.
Okay.
In the middle.
You want to read that? Okay.
The ultimately significant things in all this is craving and attachment rather than whatever is the object of that attachment and craving. Thus, it is not the objects of sense desire that cause us suffering, but our attachment to those. It is not views, precepts and vows and the doctrine of self that in themselves cause suffering, but our attachment. This is not to say that all views, precepts and vows and the doctrine about self are regarded as equal in Buddhist thought. Certain attachments are most definitely considered more harmful and more productive of suffering than others. Thus, an attachment to the first of the 5 Buddhist precepts, the precept of not harming living creatures, is not to be considered as of the same order as an attachment to the habit of killing creatures. Indeed, deliberately killing living creature is regarded as a particularly unwholesome act, and to the extent that attachment to the precept of not harming living creature prevent us from killing. It is a positive good. Nevertheless, as long as it remains an attachment, an abstract principle, we tenaciously cling to it. It too must remain a contributory cause of dukkha. The problem is that we can become attached to even useful and helpful things, even to the practice of the Buddha's teaching.
All right, thank you. The next one? Yeah.
It is as if they were a man who had set out on a long journey, he might see a great river in flood. The near shore, fearful and dangerous. The far shore, safe and free of danger, but there might be no ferry or bridge for crossing from one side to the other. And this man might think, this is a great river in flood. The near shore is fearful and dangerous. The far shore, safe and free of danger, but there is no ferry or bridge to cross from one side to the others. What if I were to gather together grass, stick, branches, and forage and bind together a raft, and then using the raft, striving with my hand and feet, safely cross over to the further shore. Thereupon the man might gather together grass, stick, branches, and forage and bind together a raft, and then using the raft, striving with his hand and feet, he might safely cross over to the further shore. Once he had crossed over, it might occur to him, this raft is very useful to me. Using this raft, striving with my hand and feet, I have safely crossed over to the further shore. What if I were to now lift it on to my head or raise it on my back and set off as I pleased? What do you think of this, monk? If the man did this with the raft, would he be doing what is appropriate?
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Not at all, my Lord. Not at all, Lord. So what might this man do with the raft in order to do what is appropriate? In this case, once he has crossed over, it might occur to him, this raft is very useful to me. Using this raft, striving with my hands and feet, I have safely crossed over to the further shore. What if I were now to beach this raft on the shore, or sink it in the water, and go on my way as I please? The man who did this with the raft would be doing what is appropriate. Even so, monks, as being like a raft, I have taught you how Dharma is for the purpose of crossing over, and not for the purpose of holding on to. Those who understand the similarity to a raft will let go, even the teachings and practices, let alone what are not the teachings and practices.
All right, thank you. So next one? Yeah.
This does not mean that in relinquishing his or her attachment to the precept of not harming living creatures, the Buddhist Zen suddenly starts harming living creatures. Rather, the Buddhist Zen does no harm to living creatures, not out of attachment to some precept or ethical principle he or she has undertaken to live by, but because of rooting out any motivation that might move him or her to want to harm living creatures, thus as well as indicating the, as it were, horizontal range of craving and attachment. Buddhist thought drew up a vertical hierarchy of attachment, which the Buddhist practitioner progressively relinquishes as he or she follows the path.
All right, why don't we read one more paragraph?
Something of this hierarchy of attachments is indicated by the ancient list of the 10 fetters or bounds that binds beings to suffering and the round of rebirth. The view of individually doubt, clinging to precepts and vows, sensual desires, aversion, desire for form, desire for the formless, pride, agitation, and ignorance. As we shall presently see, the practice of the Buddhist path begins with the taking of ethical precepts aimed at restraining particularly damaging kinds of behavior. This provides the basis for the cultivation of meditation practices that bring the practitioner to direct experience of the subtle worlds of form and the formless. Nevertheless, as the list of the 10 fetters makes clear, attachment to both precepts and to the words of form and the formless
experienced in meditation must be relinquished for the end of the path to be fully realized.
Okay. Any question? Any comment? It's very.
Isn't there another list of things on the Abhidhamma?
No, you have it in your Pali Agama also.
Because I seen the two lists of texts and they're just 4 items that's a little bit different.
No, the 10 factors are the same.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why we call it, Samyujan, and the 10 factors are the same. This, You have that actually in the Nikaya as well. Any question? Yes.
So, you talked about horizontal range of craving and vertical hierarchy. Vertical, I can understand better, right? It goes from very basics of killing to not harming to whatever. But what's horizontal?
I also have the same question myself.
Okay.
Anyone can give the answer. What does it mean by the horizontal? I remember he did say that, but I cannot remember. Yes, yeah.
Would it be that killing a person is different from killing an ant?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean horizontally.
Oh.
To answer that question.
From
That's
how?
my choosing.
Maybe severity and frequency?
Yeah. Something like that.
One is
Mhm.
like severity, like how heavy is this? And the other one is like how often do you do this?
Or intentional, unintentional.
I don't really know why. I mean, yeah, maybe it could be. I don't know. So anyone have a better understanding? Because I don't really know why he want to put it like horizontal range of craving and attachment. It is very, very popular way of putting it even in Chinese too. And but I usually find it very difficult to understand this horizontal and vertical concept.
When you think, well,
很看怎么样 and 数 I usually find it difficult. I don't have the imagination.
when you put it like
So,
that, it seems like vertical is something is higher than the other. Well, of course, horizontal is that they're equal, not like one more like heavier than the other.
I see.
But I don't know. I need to look back what it was referring to as horizontal.
Okay. At least there's one way to understand horizontal means the most like equal.
Yeah, they're not
Okay.
one is worse than the other.
Okay.
Breadth of different types of suffering.
Yeah.
And like the vertical is like the severity of the different types of suffering.
Yeah, because I think through attaining gradually attaining different level of sainthood, one would abandon the first few fetters and then
Vertical.
and the second group of fetters and then the last group of fetters. So it's a so it's a vertical.
Maybe the horizontal is kind of like a root.
Yeah, because some fetter is deeper and some fetter is more superficial.
What is the first group of fetters that we need to get rid of?
Yeah,
Next paragraph.
The doubt. When you look at the page 73, the view of the individuality and the doubt and clinging to precepts and vows, those three are the first to be get rid of. Yeah. And then the sensual desires and aversion will just become a little bit just become lesser when you're in a second fruit, when you attain a second sainthood. Only when you're on the third sainthood, you cut off the sensual desire and aversion and desire. But the other desire for formless, pride, agitation, and ignorance are only completely cut off by the Arahant. Yeah.
There's another interpretation of horizontal is that usually progression of time, like depending on left to right or the direction doesn't matter, And it's just that one is first and then the other. Well, like the hierarchy is easy to understand. Worse than the other.
Okay.
Well, the other one is a timeline.
That kind of timeline. Okay. Right. Sure. All right.
So what does it mean, the view of individuality? Like, is this the thing where it's like there's no self? Is that what it is? Or
Yeah. Yeah. So because that by realizing that there's no self, so then one abandon the view on the individuality. Yeah.
And is that view something that you have like when you're in the meditation, or is that something that you feel as well outside of the meditation? Like
no, I mean depends on what you mean by meditation. Okay. So as the term meditation means you do have a focused mind, and then if you're meditating on what we call the insight meditation, you're doing the insight meditation. Not only just you have focused mind, but you can direct your mind anywhere you like to direct to, right? Those are the basic components you need to have that. So with that kind of component with you, and I mean say that you're practicing the meditation. But you're observing the 5 aggregates or so forth. So this is how then later on you realize there's no self. In other words, definitely is in all meditation, but I don't mean the meditation means just sitting there, but it's that meditation here been always defined mean you have a focused mind and then you can direct your mind where you want to go. You can direct to where you want to observe, you can direct your mind to observe that clearly.
So I guess the question comes from like, you mentioned that the Buddha was following other teachers and practicing other methods, and he was like, I don't have suffering like when I'm inside the meditation or when I'm inside the practice, but after I come out of it, I still have suffering. So I'm just wondering, like, did he by the practice was he doing the meditation like inside the meditation he didn't have those sufferings, but outside?
No, it's what he was practiced before. It was believed that the one is maybe nowadays what we call the samadhi system. Okay, so he would practice. He could enter a certain stage of the mental state. From the mental state, he was fine, but but then still in the daily life, he still had to face into suffering, right? Now, what we just mentioned about the 8 kind of suffering or to 11 kind of suffering. So he definitely face something he disagree with, right? So that suffering comes along. So that, this is what he mean by even having that kind of deep concentration, it would not help him to be out of the suffering. Okay. But in India in those days, when you have a deep concentration, even nowadays it's the same. This is one thing which is difficult to address to Indian people. In India also there are many different sources about meditation. So they believe that when you have a very deep samadhi, deep, strong of the focus, the concentration, then you are actually you are nibbana. But the Buddha don't take it that way, because the Buddha thinks that is just only a mental state. You've been conditioned in one mental state. In order to have nibbana, it has to be not just staying in the mental state. So you have to be able to observe the thing as how it presented to you. And we will come to that no self the topic. Then this is what it's about. Generally, mean then when you really understand the reality of what is meant by the form, what is reality of what we believe the soul, or what we believe there's a mind, and then you come to a point, who are you? You cannot pinpoint there's one of you. But that's not to deny that you exist, but it's only to say that that's me is never be true, Okay,
I guess the question is like the view of like your sense of like there's no self. Is that something like that you feel, or is that something that you?
No, you understand actually there's no something that really call the self there.
So like it's something that you like understand conceptually, but like everyone can understand that.
No, I don't know what you mean by conceptual here, but you have the true kind of investigation of yourself, and then you are able to understand. Let me put it. Because if you have a really curious or strong investigation of the self, you have no way to pinpoint which is you, right? And that kind of realization comes to you. And this is that's mean by then the person have the view about the individual will just destroy. For example, people may claim that they say, that's me. I'm the person who don't like tidy thing. But it's not true. Actually, you don't like tidy thing is you construct yourself that you don't like tidy thing. But let's say if a certain important people come to see you, you start to tidy your thing also. But why do you say that there's an entity of you that you don't like tidy? You don't like to tidy a house. It's not true also. It's always constructed by the person, right? Yeah.
And so okay, maybe doubt is a easier example. Like, so the no doubt. Do you have no doubt when you're in that like meditative state, like intense focused meditative state? You have no doubt, or do you carry that no doubt with you in everyday life? Like,
I mean, here the doubt here, I think first the doubt here is usually been defined. The first thing you cut off the doubt is only you cover the doubt of the first thing you need to cut off is the four thing. I just mentioned three just now. The four one is the doubt. You cover the doubt because you doubt the Buddha, you doubt the teachings, and you doubt there's a people who can reach to the Zenhood as a Sangha, as a community of the Zenhood. Usually the doubt is referred to that. In other words, mean if you're not 100% seeing what the teaching is about, then you still have the doubt there sometimes, right? Is it really somebody can attend something like that? Is it really the Buddha teaching is really can help you to be out of this kind of problem and so forth? The doubt is always there, unless you reach to the state of what we said. There's a lot of different saying, but generally mean understand. At least you have to reach to the state of before attending the Sotapanna, the first fruit. The doubt refer to the doubt of the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. And of course, then you should many other doubt, because imagine that even according to this list, so if someone who want to attend become Arahant, in between, of course, then there's something there they still not sure how to do it. Even though they attend the first Zenhood, they might be practice the same thing, but there's still some minor thing they need to be instructed, or maybe at least have to go through it, in order to eradicate the doubt. Yeah.
So I guess what's the difference between achieving this first level and a person who just conceptually understands there's no self, don't doubt, have faith in all these teachings, he understands, someone who understands, there is no self. You understand the idea of there's no self, and you truly trust the teachings and the path and the Dharma and stuff. What's the difference between the person who achieves that first level and the person who just genuinely believes in those things? Is there a difference? Does it mean that if you believe that you are already there? I feel probably not, but
I would say you just eliminate the possibility of the self. You examine everything that you claim to be self, and once you examine every single one, then you find out there's nothing you can hold on to it. There's no such a thing you can hold on to.
So it's not. And
you eliminate all the possibility. So there's no way that you can be yourself. And then the second part is you find the possibility of cessation. You find the possibility that leads you to liberation. You see it for yourself, and you say, okay, here's my way. I will not be led amiss again. Here's where I'm going.
It's a deeper level than just conceptually understanding.
In here, you have experienced yourself. You see the really.
And the experience is in the meditative state.
Yeah, because one thing is maybe you're more even though you may constructively imagine something, but you still imagine something, right? But the other thing is that you really have to see through yourself, right? So Say that you imagine you maybe are going to meet one of the important person, you will be this and that, but you never know. The fact is, you might be, when you wake up, you are a little bit anxious, due to a certain thing, or you may, because you're superstitious, you step on the wrong side of your bed, right? You thought, oh, okay, today is my bad day, and that implanted in your heart already. So that's you believe in yourself. That's why, right? Because you don't believe that actually things are changing all the time. So and then that carry with you, and then you meet a person and you don't have a good result, I mean, to imagine is one thing, and to be real is another thing, I guess. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit about the desire for the formless? Well,
it's believed that because if you are still have you still like a certain stage called the formless stage, mean the whole space, vast space, like. So usually it's about the jhana. So when the people, they meditate, right, they might be able to meditate to up to the formless state. And then, but I think here it's not referred to just experience as a meditation, but it is more about like, because it's believed that when you meditate on the formless state, you can able to will be born to the formless state, planet. You can born there to the place that no formless exists. But this kind of craving is very subtle. So like people, they may able to abandon the idea of the form. Okay, without the form is good, it's always wonderful. But then they still cling into some kind of what we call no form. The state is no form. Arahant cannot be reborn to any place, like the form place or no form place, right? Or even the desired place is the planet. So they cannot reborn any places. Of course, they have to be out of that. So that's what I mean by discard of the formless state. But I have to say in the detail, as in the detail how is very difficult. I don't know. I mean, this is a very, very deep kind of thing. You know that if you look at the early Buddhist text, the most difficult is to attain arahantship. Nobody will question about the sotapanna, to become a first sainthood. They always question about how you can attain the arahant, even how to attain the sakadagami and the anagami. That means the sainthood, because those are difficult parts, to reach. But its belief generally means that's why the abandon of the form and the formless are only for the arahant. Yeah.
Quick question: are the
yes.
4 jhanas corresponding to the 4 levels?
The 4 jhana is just only no. The jhana, it's nothing to do with the sainthood. The 4 jhana.
Like you get first jhana, then your first level of sainthood.
No. First jhana is just you have a good mental state, focused mental state on that kind of called the first jhana mental state. The sainthood is completely have to be understood the teachings, not by reference, but by practicing that. Then you realize that's how the physical body is about. That's how our feelings is about, and so forth. Yeah. It's not completely different from jhana.
So to achieve sainthood, not only do you have to meditate, you have to also understand the teachings, basically.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the practice and teaching should be goes together, but I mean, nowadays, of course, then you must have at least been understood. You kind of like you point the right direction to look at, right? Otherwise, you look in the wrong direction. Yeah, but you definitely have to look for yourself. Yeah, like that. Okay. All right. I guess any other thing? Any comment with this? No. Okay. We have to go back to read the cessation of suffering, nirvana, which is everybody liked to read about. I don't know. But maybe a lot of question comes along too. And then the way leading to the cessation of suffering. What we hope to do is the next class, we don't have to read every paragraph, I guess. We just pick up a few paragraphs we thought we can discuss about, right? And but if you have time, please just go through a little bit, go through it, and then we can have a faster. So we can at least finish the 4 truths by next discussion. So we don't want to hang on too long for the Four Truths. Even though it's very, very important, I guess, to have a better picture, sometimes you need to go to the No Self, the chapter 5, you know, the No Self. I think, yeah, that's a chapter 6, No Self, and then also maybe somehow, yeah, Buddhist cosmology too, on the chapter 5. Okay, and then, okay, anyway, thanks for coming. So we have a class, I think, not in February, right? Maybe in March. 26 February?
I believe there's another one.
Okay. All right, then I will see you on 26 February. By the way, 23rd? 23rd February, okay, on Thursday. All right, and also have a Happy New Year too. We still have 2 days to finish our Chinese New Year. Okay. Okay. You do the 回向。
就是 this coming Saturday, we'll having a one-day meditation retreat, starting from 9:30. On Saturday.
On Sunday, you also have activities.
Sunday, Venerable Dhammadipa is going to have a Chinese book study class.
Really?
Yes.
What are we going to study? What time? What time?
King James Bible.
So, what time?
In the morning, you have to give a speech around 10:30.
In the afternoon, you have
from 1 p.m. you have to give a talk about.
What is it? What is it? Okay.
Let's figure it out.
King James Bible. Okay. Akasata Japumata Devanaga Mahindika Punyanta Numotito Chiran Rakam to Desana, Chiran Rakam to Sasana, Chiran Rakam to Mount Barandi.
Sadhu, 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 sadhu.